It does not matter what type of business you're in. It could be just regular brick and mortar, a CPG brand, or you could be a medical practice. It doesn't matter who you are. In order to make this, you need people, you need employees, you need a team that can help you reach your goals. And there's nothing more important, especially during current trying times, than morale and community to ensure your business or your medical practice's success. I'm very, very excited to have Ken Chen, who is a certified medical practice executive from UroPartners in Chicago. We are going to talk about how he's able to maintain morale and build community within his urology practice and achieve success. So thank you so much for coming on, and welcome to the program, Ken.
Thanks for having me, Dr. Lin. I appreciate it.
So tell me, I mean, during when everything came down back in February, March, what was going on within your practice?
Oh, wow. Believe it or not, right around February, I actually went on a 2-week trip to Thailand, right when we didn't know what was happening. And so I was over there during that time. But then right when I came back, probably a week or two after, is when the country went on lockdown. So we had to pivot within about a week's time. The best summary is we had to cut everything down to elective. My team had to be cut to part-time or less. And we survived. We made it through until, I think with the help, honestly, of the PPP loan that came through around May, when we were able to bring everybody back on and ramp back up because we were able to go out of the elective only. So our schedule, I would say we probably went down by about 30% in terms of patient load. But once we picked back up around May, once we got that PPP loan, we have been kind of like more or less almost back to normal with social distancing. Is probably the biggest thing that's happening.
So you had to cut down your employees, furlough some of the employees. Is that what you're saying? You had to cut down?
So we didn't actually have to, fortunately, we didn't have to cut anybody. And I'm grateful for that because we have such an amazing team.
So you kept everyone on,
mm-hmm.
but maybe decreased their hours?
Mm-hmm. So part-time or less. And we had most of them working from home, and we had like we had a cycle of people coming in and out. We wanted to reduce the exposure because we didn't know, we didn't know what it was. I was scared. I was across the street. Our main hospital, we were on our main office is across the street from a hospital that had almost 150 plus deaths. And one of the biggest ones. So I was wondering, when am I going to get it? And when is my team going to get it? What's going to happen to them? So I was bracing for that. We wanted to reduce any of that exposure by reducing them having to come in as essential workers. So we cut them back to half-time or less. Most of them were working from home. I got them set up, did all the logistics, got them set up for that. And obviously within 2 weeks of the lockdown, we actually shifted over to a big, quick shift over to telemedicine, which we were not doing before then.
Well, that is a nice summary of probably what most urology practices or most medical practices did. When the lockdown occurred, we really didn't know what the heck to expect. And then obviously you still incur overhead, but you don't want to lose your valuable employees. So we did, like everyone else, we did what we could to keep everybody afloat. So since getting people back on, let's talk about during that time. How did you make sure that everyone is in the loop? And because there's so much uncertainty about job security, about income, about one's health. So how did you maintain that certainty as best as you could for your staff?
Sure. Well, and if I could go back real quick, the best summary is, and the reason why I'm so grateful about why I was honestly surprised how well we managed this. I'll give myself some type of credit because I was able to take leadership through it and lead the team through it, right? But what I saw come together during COVID was a team that I had built up until that point. And I call it a team atmosphere, which I'm going to say a lot here. The word team is very powerful, where we have an overall sense of community, and it results in amazing morale and a positive output of energy when it comes to the customer service within each other and the patients. So in terms of actual how we kept folks engaged, in addition to the actual seeing them one-on-one and trying to stay positive, even though inside, honestly, I was scared. I didn't know what was happening. But I had to be a solid figure for them, something that they could rely on and trust. So I had to be that person. And one way I kept them engaged is every week we had like a half hour, some type of Zoom call or a video conference call with the entire team, giving them an update in terms of what the schedule is going to look like, what their duties are, checking in with them, seeing how they're doing, and everything. So that's how I kept them engaged during that time. But leading up to that, something I want to make sure I don't miss is right around the lockdown is I had to tell these people, as I mentioned before, that we're cutting them down to half-time or less. They'd still get their benefits, fortunately, because that requirement was gone. But for their safety, number one, and there just wasn't the patient load for it to support it. So I was bracing myself for the worst. My eyes were welling up because I'm taking away money off people's table, money off their table. And I wanted to cry. I'm not going to lie. I wanted to cry. When I presented that to them, I was like, look, we have to cut down for your safety. And there's no patients to see. We're just going to be sitting around. I'm sorry. We will get this up and going as soon as possible. I was worried for some sort of a mutiny or people being really upset. They just looked at me. They nodded. Okay, that's fine. We're being safe. We're doing all the right things. And that's where I thought I was successful in building that team and community. That it surprised me. I was like, wow, we do have an amazing team. And it's just how did we get there, which I think is key. I'm starting to go on a big tangent.
No, that's okay. So it sounds like communication, right? You have held these team meetings, communication, and then being empathetic because you're showing your emotion and how you feel, and you understand, you hear them.
Yes, for sure. The empathy period, I think, just kind of is something huge, and you have to become a trusted leader. Now, a lot of this does come from the top in terms of the management, whether it be CEOs or physician ownership, that giving you the autonomy and trusting you to do that and backing you up for any actions that you take. But you need to follow through with that as an administrator. So as the administrator, we need to be the trusted leader, and the key things that we need to be focused on is being selfless, empathetic. We need to empower our folks. We need to be able to motivate them, be authentic and vulnerable. I told you about that crying thing. And you have to show action and actually follow up when you're listening. So those are all key things that I can go into each one if you'd like. But they all are like the pieces of many, but that's just a summary of what I think makes up a great team atmosphere.
I am more interested. So a lot of people, there's always in politics and in business, there's always a lot of this, but not a lot of action. So I love to hear more about the action part, what you actually did other than the team meetings to maintain morale and a sense of community in your practice.
Yeah, and as we talked about, even it's well before COVID, and how did I get here?
Yeah, how did you get there?
What did I do? And I had to reflect on this. And
because when an emergency comes, trying to build morale and community, it's too late.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. Which I saw, and I just didn't know. I don't have an official training in this type of stuff. I just maybe have a knack for it. And I had built that along the way because I'm always looking ahead in terms of, okay, where do I want to be? Where do I want this team to be? Where do I want us to be highly functioning, efficient in everything that we do? So, and those points that I mentioned here, being selfless is, we have to make it about them. And the empathy part is huge. And when you're actively engaging them, how are you? What can I do to help you? What can I support you with? But not you need to actively say, how are you? Oh, that's fine. I had this car crash this morning. You pivot it right back to you. Don't do that. Keep it about them. Engage them. Be empathetic. It's tough, but you gotta be aware of what you're saying and what you're doing. Active listening. When they answer you, listen to what they're saying. When they come to you with problems, don't type on the computer. Look at them. Stop what you're doing. Look them in the eye. Hear them. They want that. It's important. Think about how you would feel if somebody was actually actively listening to you. I think it's important. They want to feel heard.
It's kind of like me. If I were like this, right? If I were like this, yeah, okay, Ken, yeah, okay, yeah. I mean, how would you feel, right? So
right.
There's listening, and then there's active listening. What you're talking about is active listening. You're really, really hearing them, and instead of saying like pivoting right away to talk about something else that you want to talk about, you're hearing the person with whom you're speaking, and then reflecting on what they say, and then come up with a meaningful response.
Exactly. It's really key, because if you're not listening, they can see right through that. Like, okay, they're going to keep talking, and then sometimes when people do that to me, I insert right at the end. There's like, and then I found $10 to see if they're paying attention. That's like my favorite.
You know what? This translates not just to employees and office staff, but also interpersonal relationships with your spouse. And I had to learn that, because I am so used to multitasking. But when I'm engaging with my spouse, I learned that I should not and cannot do that.
You know the recipe.
Yeah. And so when dealing with employees and staff, it definitely have to pay attention. And I'm still a work in progress when it comes to that.
Everyone, me too. I always have to check myself. We're human. I'm not saying I'm perfect. I'm guilty. Oh, stop typing. Stop and listen. Ask them to have a seat. Don't make them feel like they have to hover at the door, say something real quick because you're busy. Everyone's busy.
Yeah.
We're always going to be busy. There's always going to be something to do. Have them sit down. That time is priceless in terms of building them up too.
Yeah. So when it comes to sitting down, that is also important from a clinician's perspective when seeing patients, a little bit off topic. If the clinician,
totally related.
Yeah, if the clinician sits down to talk to the patient, even though the interaction is very short, the perception is that you spend a lot of time, because the perception from the patient is that process of sitting down is, I'm paying attention to you. One thing that I learned, how at the office we have workstations, and often the physicians and clinicians are facing the workstation, usually into a wall, typing, speaking through dictation and whatever. Whenever my administrator comes over, I try to make a point of turning physically away from the wall and face her to speak with her.
And that's good that you're aware. Unfortunately, many people aren't aware of the value in that. And this is our opportunity to tell people there's so much value in doing that, stopping and listening. For
All
sure.
right. So,
and you said something I'm sorry, real quick.
Go ahead.
You said, people, which we hear all the time, they don't remember what you said. They remember how you make them feel.
Yep. I totally get it.
If that's one takeaway, you can take so much from just that sentence.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah. People don't remember what you did for them, but they do remember how you made them feel. That is so true. All right. So empathy, listening, communication, vulnerability. How do you motivate people? How did you do that before the public health emergency happened?
Yeah. So some things that are part of that too is, as I mentioned, empowering them. Giving them the opportunity to take ownership over a project, and fighting the want to just do it. Because you can knock it out in an hour or less, but it could take them days. That's fine. Number one, you have to support you, because you can't be the jack of all trades. And number two, build them up. Make them feel like they're making an impact, and you're giving them an opportunity, that you believe in them, that they are valued. There's nothing wrong with assigning a project and having them work on it. So that's a great opportunity. And when you motivate folks, it's showing that part of empowering them, you're showing a belief you're supporting them, and you're encouraging them all along the way. I think it's key. And then while you're doing it, in terms of just leadership, period, as I touched on in terms of the authenticity and vulnerability, some things you have to be wary about is what they call the toxic positivity.
Ooh, so what is that?
I recently learned of that, and that's when you hear the folks that it's obviously super negative around, and then they try to stay on that silver lining. Oh, but no, it's great, it's fine. I mean, there's this, you can get that one piece of dirt out of that. I mean, it's the greatest thing ever. It's okay. Acknowledge the negative. Don't sit in it. Acknowledge it. Don't avoid it and pretend it's not there. Acknowledge it. Talk through it, and then navigate out of it. That's the beauty, is if you're able to navigate out of that. So you're going to avoid being the toxic positivity, which is, oh, everything's so great all the time. Let's be real. authenticity. And honestly, if you're in terms of building the morale in the community, have fun. Don't be a stuffy a suit. You're going to cause that type of fear. Be part of them. Work hard, play hard, but still be a leader. There's a magic in that. I always make the analogy. It's like the conductor of an orchestra. You don't and can't honestly be the master of every single instrument there. But we are, or the conductor's duty is to make sure all the pieces of the puzzle, which is the musicians, work together and are in tune. And their goal is to make music via the conductor's vision. And we are the conductors. It is our duty to find the magic in getting the best out of each of our team members. What is each person's unique capability? How do we draw out the best in them? But we don't have to be perfect at what we do. It's how do we manage that and make the best of it?
Well, it sounds like a lot of delegation. Like you said, you can be the master of all trades, but you can't do it all. You can't do everything if you want to scale, if you want to be really successful, and if you want to, if you don't want to burn out, really.
Absolutely.
Just pick
you build the tools for the teams to make them efficient, but maybe give somebody else the opportunity to build those tools to allow them to be more efficient along the way too.
And a lot of that requires that the leader has the trust and the understanding and also the patience to let other people try and possibly mess up. And then you'll say, okay, you know what? It happens. I've done it before. I've done
what I call fail forward.
Yeah. I made the same mistake before. So not to worry. This is fixable. So let's move on. And it's a great lesson.
For sure, 100%.
So what else?
When you empower folks.
Yeah. So what else did you do to make sure that your employees and staff members were ready, so that you build the morale and the community within your organization in anticipation of something that happens in the future, and in this case, the public health emergency?
I don't know that. I mean, other things that we've done ancillary. As I said, I didn't do anything specific knowing that this was coming. It just turned out to be that way. But we actively, even as simple as people's birthdays, we acknowledge everybody's birthday. We have a birthday cake now, individual cupcakes. We have outings with the team, or had outings with the team, like at one of our doctors' houses who would host us, or every year around the holidays, we would go to Whirly Ball and have and everybody would bring one guest with them, typically their significant other. So it's just having those outside aspects too, which I think are kind of key to the team building as well. But I think also just the genuine, not even just them coming into your office, is actually pulling them into your office and doing that active listening, I think is important. It doesn't have to be overcomplicated. To be totally honest, when you actually just listen and show that you care about them, you can really increase the productivity and output, I think, of your team members.
Yeah, I'm definitely still a work in progress when it comes to doing a lot of this stuff, but it is imperative. For instance, coming in the morning and saying hello to people. For me, I just go straight to my workstation, turn it on. Who's the first patient, and let's go.
Yeah.
But people are not robots. So people have emotions. So I try to, if I walk by, I'm gonna say, hey, how's it going? If they're not on the phone or busy, or at least I'll go like this, like, I see you.
Yeah, exactly.
One of the very powerful things that I learned is that, but you have to, like you said earlier, you have to be able to carry through. Is I asked this question to my staff: what can I do to make your life easier? What can I do to make your life easier or better? Now, don't ask if you're not ready to carry through, to actually follow through.
Exactly.
They may come up with simple things like recently, one of the staff members said, hey, you know what? It would be great if I could possibly get one of these wireless headsets. Easy fix. And so she doesn't have to cradle the phone, and now both of her hands are free. She's like so much more productive. And what a simple fix. And then the person sitting next to her in the same office said, oh yeah, that's a great idea. So now I have two people becoming more productive for a very, very simple fix. But all it takes is asking, taking the time to ask. And then keeping the door open. You can ask all you want.
It's whether or not you do something.
Yeah. But keeping the door open, like constantly reinforcing, hey, you know what? I value your opinion. If you can come up with ideas, let me know. I may not implement it, but it's keeping that dialogue open is absolutely important.
100%. And it builds your credibility too, especially when, and you have to set the expectation. You go, let me think through this, don't set yourself up for failure. Set yourself up for success. I think that's a great idea. Let me see what I can do. I'll get back to you on that. Actually get back to them on that, which I think is important.
What are so we talked about some of the things like gatherings pre-pandemic and recognizing birthdays. My administrator's amazing with remembering anniversaries, birthdays, and special occasions. I'm horrible at it. I think when I was
that's why you have us.
Yeah, exactly. And when I was growing up, I think we just didn't make a big deal out of it. When, grew up in Taiwan, we just didn't make a big deal out of it. I don't remember ever inviting friends over for a birthday party. So coming over here and then
I think it's an Asian thing.
It is an Asian thing. It is an Asian. But now with the family, it's like, oh my gosh, birthday. Let's make sure there are cakes and the presents and opening up presents and things like that. I didn't have any of that. So it's a learning process for me. Some of it is cultural, and I'm still adapting. What other things have you guys done in your practice to foster that community and improving and maintaining morale? Any surprise outings and any other incentives? This only goes so far. Right? You get it, and it's like, okay, great. But then, like you said, how did you make that person feel? How do you maintain that positivity?
For sure. Luckily we have I have a great team that they actually they did before pandemic. They would get together ad hoc, separate, we did do, one of our team members organized a yoga outing for the entire team. She took ownership over it. She's a big yogi person. And we all went, and then we went to brunch afterwards. So it was impromptu, nothing formal. And it was just a great opportunity to get out of there, do something physical, meditative, stretch, and just get together. So we're to the point where actually team members want to arrange it on their own. They have a great communication offline. From what I hear, they're texting each other, they're sending memes to each other, they're commenting on memes on Facebook together. They're doing all those things that I hear about, and it just warms my heart. I'm like, this is amazing. And so I'm not going to lie, Dr. Lou, we don't do a ton. It's just how we treat each other, how they treat each other. And we're to the point now when we're hiring folks, we are hiring into a culture. And my latest hire, who's amazing, I said I keep it real. I was like, don't you ruin my community. I've built something very special here, and I'm very protective. And I said that, and she's a great fit, and I think it kind of takes away, it's kind of fun in a way when I say it too. I'm not just being like, really, like, don't mess up what I have. But it's true. We're hiring into a culture, because part of the fear when you bring people in, at least for me, maybe it's just me, is somebody to come in and be toxic. Are they going to become a cancer to the energy? But when we already have this and it's built, it's, from what I've learned and what I'm being told too, it's hard for an energy like that to come in and not be canceled out. They inherently need to be part of the woo-woo.
I love it. So when that's you know, let's divert a little bit here. When it comes to hiring and firing, that's one of the many questions that people ask on the Facebook group that you and I are part of, the Thriving Urology Practice. Hiring and firing in HR is one of the biggest issues. How do you go about that hiring process to make sure that person is the right fit?
Okay, so we have a very specific process from the corporate level in terms of screening, right? I give them, we have our standard job descriptions for each role. We're not supposed to tweak them much, but so they'll screen them. They kind of know what I'm looking forward to because they know about our business unit. They know the culture that we have, and they can kind of gauge whether or not they'll be a good fit. And when I'm actually interviewing them, it's not even so much about the questions you're asking, it's how they answer them. What confidence do they have? What knowledge do they could have, I was about to say, what knowledge do they have? They could have no knowledge, but have the fire in their belly to want to learn. And if they seem coachable to learn, I'll probably hire them over somebody with more experience, honestly. And you can also read the energy that they have. And I ask questions, HR appropriate questions, to dig and find out, how do they probably think? You know, how would they fit? I ask questions that sounds like something I might not even fully listen to the answer. It's just how do they answer and how do they make me feel? There's a lot to read into those words. You know, the inflection of their voice, their body language. Yeah, they're going to be nervous.
Yeah.
We're trying to break that down too.
I think you touched on what's the most important part. A couple of things. Number one, you're hiring on attitude and not so much aptitude. And that's what we try to do as well. Thankfully, my administrator has taken that task away because HR is one of the biggest headaches, no matter what industry you're in. And the other thing you said, you mentioned a key word that you mentioned, cancer. If you have someone who's toxic, he or she is a cancer in your practice. And I have, when I ran the practice myself, briefly, I never regretted firing someone, only regretting that I did it too late. Right? It's always uncomfortable to let somebody go, but I always regretted not doing it sooner because you knew that this is not a right fit, but I hated letting people go.
Right.
And
it's not the favorite thing ever.
And just like cancer in real life, right? In a person, if you don't excise it, you can't cure the entity, cure the organization, and then that cancer may metastasize, causing harm to the entire organization. The entire environment becomes toxic. So super important.
Right. Absolutely. I mean, that's a great analogy. We're an analogy half hour here. It's great.
Well, Ken, in the last couple of minutes, how are you? This is not medically related, or maybe it's a little bit medically related. Tell us a little bit more about your side gig and how are you building community and culture and morale in that entity?
Sure. So my side gig, I got 2 minutes here. Great. The basic summary is where do I start? I was a professional. I went to school to be classically trained in the clarinet. I have a master of the clarinet. So long story short, I had a very sedentary lifestyle up until maybe I was 27-ish, because I was just sitting and practicing, auditioning, working. I didn't do a lot. So I started into running marathons, got bored after 5 or 7 of those. And then after that, I decided
just one day you decided to go run marathons.
to train. And then I got bored with that and I started training for Ironmans. I'm an extreme person. I can't just do a 5K. I can't just do a sprint. I'm learning to work on that. I'm working on that.
Happy Friday.
Oh,
sorry about that.
he's playing my story. So I shifted from there to Ironman triathlons. I couldn't swim, and I found this wellness space just in terms of just being healthy, and I think is important. And however, for my health, I was not feeding myself or giving myself the proper nutrition, and I was only doing the physical aspect. So you see a lot of like those skinny fat people. So I had a passion to actually coach people. So I became a USA Triathlon certified coach and coach folks for running a triathlon now, just to help people meet their goals. Because I went from nothing to a lot.
Wow.
And I want to encourage people to do something, to take action in their lives for their health and wellness. After I stopped Ironman and retired from doing Arizona in 2016, within a period of 6 months, I kept eating like I was training for Ironman. So training was offsetting all those calories that I was eating, which was not good. So I found a health and wellness company that had a protocol that I followed that I lost a lot of weight. And it's pivoted into actually coaching folks to be able to do the same, to help them do the same, whether it be in their actual fitness or helping them through a similar protocol. And if they want to help people do the same, it's fun to do that and transfer it over to folks and just see people just improve their lives or take action within their lives. So my goal on social, which is not really work related much, is just, showing people I'm doing the do every day. If you want to join me, come along with. If you want to learn more when you're ready, check out the links in my bio. And I keep it fairly simple. So, but building a community, it's important. But at the end of the day, you have to build your own community within yourself because you need to be happy with yourself alone. Because I always try to think of that deserted island. Am I happy with where I am right now? If I get stuck on a deserted island, so you need to feed that first and help people along the way see that in themselves.
Wow, that is just great. Yeah, being comfortable with in yourself, in your own skin first, so that you can then effect change and help other people become better.
Exactly.
That's awesome. Well, Ken, thank you so much for sharing so much fire,
Absolutely.
so much good information to improve our practices, how to maintain morale, improve morale, and building community. So thank you so much.
Yeah. Thank you for having me, and I encourage anybody to reach out if they want any other tips, and I can come on again if you want to have an open Q&A. That'd be fun too. I'm not perfect, but I'm open to talking through, scenarios. Why don't you try it this way? Try it that way. You shouldn't have done it that way. Maybe not a good route, but we can all learn. Nobody's perfect. I'm not perfect. Let's figure it out together.
You got it. What a great message. All right. Thank you so much, Ken.
Absolutely. Have a good one.
Bye-bye.
Bye.